My name is Debbie. I am 26 years old, and a few weeks ago I watched my own mother freeze in my doorway like she had just walked into a crime scene I had staged especially for her. Her hand tightened around the spare key, her eyes darted across my apartment, and for the first time in my life, she looked genuinely scared of what I might be capable of. That was the moment I knew I had finally taken my freedom back. But it did not start with panic on her face. It started with a key turning in a lock that was supposed to be mine, and mine alone. I would come home from work to find the faint smell of food hanging in the air, my laptop angled differently on the desk, my laundry basket a little too neatly tucked away. No broken windows, no forced entry, just tiny, smug signs that someone had been here and felt entitled to leave everything better than they had found it. Every time I confronted her, I got the same answer. I am your mother. I worry. I am just helping. As if that sentence was a magic spell that let her cross any line she wanted. The more she brushed off my objections, the more something inside me twisted from irritation into something darker. It was not just about casseroles and clean counters anymore. It was about the feeling that I had escaped my childhood house only to realize she had followed me with a key in her pocket and a smile on her face. So I made a decision. If she insisted on breaking into my life, then she was going to walk into a situation she could not laugh her way out of. Have you ever felt like a parent's love turned into a cage you had to break, even if it meant getting a little revenge to finally breathe? If you relate, stick around till the end and hit subscribe so you do not miss how this story explodes. The night everything snapped for me was a random Wednesday that should have been boring. I trudged up the stairs after a 12-hour day at the agency, already rehearsing the order I was about to place on my delivery app. By the time I reached my door, I was too tired to be suspicious. The lock clicked. I pushed the door open, and the first thing I saw was my bedroom door standing half open. I never leave my bedroom door half open. My pulse kicked up. I dropped my bag by the entryway and walked in slowly, like I was the intruder. My bedspread was smoothed out, hospital tight, the way I never make it. The jewelry dish on my dresser had been moved 2 inches to the left. The little box where I kept old letters and a couple of private photos sat slightly ajar. She had not just checked whether I was eating, she had gone through my things. In the kitchen, a glass casserole dish sat in the middle of the counter, covered in foil with a note taped on top. You never eat enough. Love you. The words blurred for a second as anger pressed hot against my skin. Love you. As if love meant she could march into my apartment and audit my life whenever she got bored or lonely. For a second, I was 16 again, standing in my childhood bedroom with my diary open on the floor, my handwriting exposed. I could still hear her voice from that day, so casual it cut like a knife. If you don't have anything to hide, why are you locking this? She had smiled then, like she was teaching me a lesson, not violating me. Now, years later, her voice echoed in my head as I stared at that open box on my dresser. Same move, different zip code. I grabbed my phone before I could overthink it and hit call. She picked up on the second ring, bright and cheerful. Hi, sweetheart. How is my hardworking girl? Did you see what I left you? Yeah, I said, forcing my voice to stay level. I saw the food. And the fact that you were in my bedroom. There was a tiny pause, just long enough to confirm she knew exactly what I was talking about. Oh, Debbie, please. I was just straightening up. You live alone. It is not safe to have things lying around. And I wanted to make sure you did not have some random guy crashing here without telling me. There it was. The real reason. She was not just worried. She wanted proof, evidence, control. You went through my stuff to check if I have a boyfriend? My voice cracked, shock melting into fury. I am your mother, she repeated, like a script she never had to edit. I need to know what is going on in your life. You have always been impulsive. Remember that boy in high school? The one with the motorcycle? If I had not read your diary, who knows what would have happened. I laughed quietly, but there was no humor in it. Right. You saved me by proving I could not trust you with anything private. She sighed dramatically like I was being unreasonable. You are overreacting. Again. I brought you food. I tidied up. You should be thanking me, not accusing me. Something inside me clicked into place. The same conversation, over and over, stretched from my teenage bedroom into this tiny apartment. I could picture it like a split scene in a movie. On one side, 16-year-old me clutching a journal. On the other, 26-year-old me gripping my phone, apartment smelling of reheated cheese. Same power play, same dismissal. Listen, I said slowly, feeling the words solidify as I spoke. This is my home, not yours, not ours, mine. You do not get to walk in whenever you want just because you feel lonely or bored or curious about my dating life. Her tone sharpened. Excuse me? Lonely? Bored? I am working my tail off to make sure you are okay and you are calling me nosy? I am calling you invasive, I shot back, and I am done pretending it is fine. If you keep doing this, I am changing the locks. Silence. Real silence. I could practically hear her pride bristle through the phone. You would change the locks on your own mother? She finally said, disbelief laced with outrage. After everything I have done for you? Who co-signed your lease? Who helped you with your deposit? You would shut me out? For one brief moment, guilt pricked at me. She had helped. She had always helped. With strings attached, with conditions, with keys. But help, nonetheless. I do not want to shut you out, I said, jaw tight. I want you to knock, to call, to treat me like an adult, not a teenager under surveillance. She laughed, but this time there was an edge to it. You are being dramatic, Debbie. This is not a TV show. Stop threatening me with locks and just accept that I know what is best for you. Something in me cooled. I looked around at my rearranged apartment and realized talking was not going to fix this. She had heard my boundaries and tossed them aside like junk mail. Okay, I said quietly. You have made your position really clear. Good, she replied. I will come by tomorrow and we can talk like civilized people. I will bring groceries. No, I answered. Do not come by. Not until you are willing to treat my door like it actually means something. Before she could launch into another monologue, I hit end. The call cut off mid-inhale. I stared at my phone, my thumb still hovering over the screen, half expecting it to ring again. It did not. For the first time, I had hung up on her. For the first time, I knew she was sitting somewhere, staring at her own phone, wondering if she had pushed me too far. And for the first time, I decided that if she would not respect my boundaries out of love, then she was going to learn them the hard way. 2 days later, I found out exactly how seriously she had taken my threat. It was Friday night, and all I wanted was a shower and quiet. I climbed the stairs, my muscles aching, and stopped when I saw a familiar car parked crookedly near the building entrance. My stomach tightened. That was her car. Maybe she is visiting someone else, I told myself, even though I knew almost no one else in the building. Denial works best in the 5 seconds before everything collapses. I walked down the hallway, my keys clenched in my fist. As I turned the corner, I heard laughter coming from my apartment. My apartment. The door was unlocked, slightly open. Every instinct in me screamed. I pushed the door in with my fingertips. She was sitting on my couch like she lived there, shoes off, a mug in her hand. Next to her, my younger sister Grace scrolled through her phone, comfortable, relaxed, like this was some family hangout spot we had all agreed on. A grocery bag sat on the table, my fridge door still halfway open. My brain went blank for a second. What are you doing here? I managed. My mother sprang up, that bright, rehearsed smile snapping into place. Surprise! Look who I brought to see your place finally. She gestured to the room like a realtor. I told her you have been so busy. and she should come over instead of driving all the way back to the suburbs. Grace lifted a hand in a half wave. Hey, Deb. Long shift. Mom said you would not mind if we crashed for a bit. I stepped fully inside, shutting the door behind me, and suddenly, the small apartment felt even smaller. You have my number, I said slowly. You could have asked. My mom rolled her eyes just a little, the way she used to when I complained about curfew. If I had asked, you would have said no. You always say you are tired. You do not know what is good for you. Family time is good for you. The words landed with a thud. There it was again. She knew better. My no did not count. Grace shifted, clearly uncomfortable. Mom said you have been working nonstop and not taking care of yourself, she added quietly. She made it sound like you were falling apart. The anger in my chest flashed white hot. So that was the story. In her version, she was not a controlling parent bulldozing my boundaries. She was a hero, dragging her helpless daughter back from the edge. Did she also tell you I asked her not to come over unannounced? I asked, eyes locked on Grace. My sister glanced at our mom, then back at me. She said you were just stressed and being a bit dramatic. Dramatic. The word tasted like acid. For a moment, I saw the scene from above, like one of those multi-angle shots in a family drama. On one side, me with my key in my hand and tension tightening every muscle. On the other, my mother, still half convinced she was the victim here, and Grace stuck between us, trying to be the peacekeeper even as she was being used as backup. Get comfortable, Grace, my mom chirped, oblivious or pretending to be. I brought stuff to make dinner. We will cook, eat, maybe watch something. It will be fun. Debbie, you can relax for once instead of pushing everyone away. Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended, but I did not take it back. You broke in. Again. And now you are acting like I am rude for not throwing you a welcome party. Her smile faltered. Excuse me? You heard me, I said, my voice low but steady. I told you not to come by without asking. I hung up on you because you kept ignoring what I need. And instead of listening, you brought my sister as a prop, so you could pretend this was some cozy family visit. Grace flinched like I had slapped her. I am not a prop, she murmured. I know you are not, I said, softening just for her. That is why I need you to hear this. Mom keeps saying she is just helping, but she is not. She is crossing lines that she knows I have set. She used you to make herself look less wrong. My mother's face hardened. How dare you speak to me like that in front of your sister? She snapped. I am your mother. I do not need your permission to check on you. Yes, I replied. You do. That is exactly what you need. The air in the room thickened. Grace put her phone down slowly. Mom, she said carefully, maybe you should have told her we were coming. Just a text. My mother shot her a look. Whose side are you on? There should not have to be sides, I said, but you keep forcing one. For a second, it looked like she might storm out. Instead, she crossed her arms and sat back down. Fine. We are here now. We are staying. I already unpacked the groceries. Something inside me snapped. Then pack them back up, I said. You both need to leave. You are not serious, she said, voice rising. It is just one night. Exactly, I answered. One night where you could prove you respect me, and you chose not to. I walked to the door and opened it wide. My hands were shaking, but I held the frame. Grace stood up first, eyes flicking between us. Deb, I do not want to fight with you, she whispered. We can talk about this later. We will, I said, without surprise visits. She slipped past me, brushing my arm in a silent apology. My mother stayed seated for a heartbeat too long, testing me. When she finally stood, she leaned in close enough that only I could hear. If you push me out like this, do not expect me to be there when everything falls apart, she hissed. I met her gaze. Maybe that is exactly what I need to find out. She walked out, shoulders rigid, and I shut the door carefully behind them. My hands were still shaking, But this time, it was not from fear. It was from the realization that the next steps could not just be words or threats. If love was her excuse to keep breaking in, then my revenge was going to be teaching her what it felt like to be shut out. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach and a decision sitting heavy on my chest. I had told her I would change the locks. It was time to stop using that as a bluff. On the way to work, I called a locksmith and booked an appointment for the afternoon. When I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. I was not just complaining anymore. I was taking something back. Of course, the peace lasted all of 30 minutes before my phone lit up with her name. 3 missed calls. 2 messages. "Call me, we need to talk." I ignored them until lunch, then finally texted, "We can talk at the cafe at 5." By the time I walked into the cafe, the locks on my door were already different. The locksmith had finished just an hour earlier. The old key that had followed me from my childhood home no longer worked. She was already at our usual table, one hand around a mug, the other scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. But the tightness around her mouth gave her away. "So," she said as soon as I sat down, "did you really change the locks?" No hello, no small talk. "Yes," I answered, meeting her eyes. "I did." Her jaw clenched. "Do you have any idea how cruel that is? After everything I have done for you? I helped you move. I helped you decorate. I have been paying half your phone bill for years. And now I cannot even walk into the apartment I helped you get?" There it was again. The list. The invoice of motherhood. "It is not an apartment you helped me get," I said quietly. "It is my home. You helped, and I am grateful. But help does not come with a lifetime access pass." She scoffed. "So that's it. You just cut me off. Like I am some stranger." "If you were a stranger, you would have knocked," I replied. That shut her up for a second. I watched the words hit, watched her pride absorb the blow and try to spin it. "I am not some villain," she said finally, her voice trembling in a way I was not used to. "Your father is gone. Your sister is busy with her own life. All I have left is making sure you are okay. Do you know what it feels like to sit alone in that big house at night and wonder if your daughter is safe?" Guilt tugged at me, hard. This was the part she never said out loud, that my independence felt like her abandonment. "I do not want you to be alone," I admitted. "But you cannot fix your loneliness by turning my life into a project you can control." Her eyes glistened. For a second, she looked less like the unstoppable force of my childhood and more like a woman who had no idea who she was if she was not hovering over someone. "So what?" she asked bitterly. "I am just supposed to sit there and wait for you to remember I exist. Wait for a text? You are supposed to trust that if I need you, I will call," I said. "And you are supposed to respect my door even when you are scared." She swallowed, then put the mug down a little too hard. "And if I do not?" I leaned back, suddenly exhausted. "Then the lock stay changed, and the distance between us is on you, not me." Her face reddened. "You know what?" she snapped. "You cannot keep biting the hand that feeds you. If you are so independent, maybe I should stop helping you financially. No phone bill, no emergency money, nothing. We will see how grown up you really are." For a second, fear flashed through me. She could do it. Pull her support and leave me scrambling. But underneath the fear, something else stirred. Relief. Because if she did that, there would finally be no excuse for her to hold over my head. "Do what you need to do," I said, surprising myself with how steady I sounded. "If your help comes with this much control, maybe I should stop taking it." She stared at me like she did not recognize me. Then, quietly, she said, "You are really willing to throw away your own mother over a lock and a key." I shook my head. "I am willing to stop letting my mother treat my life like an open house." We sat in silence for a long moment. In my head, another scene played out, a what-if running parallel to this one. In it, I imagined not changing the locks. I watched myself come home 5 years from now to find her sitting on my couch, still rearranging my things, still reading my mail, still acting like my boundaries were cute suggestions. In that version, I was older, more tired, and even more resentful. I blinked and came back to the real cafe, to the real woman in front of me, to the very real key that no longer fit my door. I am not doing this because I hate you, I said softly. I am doing it because if I do not, I will start to. Her expression flickered, something fragile breaking through the anger. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then finally said, I need time to think. She stood up, grabbed her bag, and left without hugging me. As the door of the cafe swung shut behind her, I realized the balance between us had shifted. The locks were changed, the threat of money being cut off hung in the air, and for the first time, she was the one on the outside looking in. But I also knew this was not over. Knowing my mother, she would not accept this new reality quietly. And if she was going to keep treating my life like a game, then I was about to change the rules in a way she would never forget. By Monday, the silence between us had stretched into something thick and heavy. No calls, no texts. Just a few read receipts on messages I sent to Grace, who responded with vague, neutral replies. Mom is mad. She thinks you went too far. I am not getting in the middle. It was exactly the kind of silence that made me nervous. My mother did not do quiet. Quiet meant plotting. I needed to be one step ahead of her for once. So I called the only person who had watched this dynamic from the outside long enough to understand how twisted it was. My friend Ella. We met at a small coffee shop a few blocks from my place, the kind with wobbly tables and decent espresso. As soon as I finished dumping the whole story on her, she sat back, eyebrows raised. She used your sister as a human shield, Ella said slowly, and then threatened to pull your money when you set a boundary. She shook her head. That is not just overprotective. That is control. I know, I sighed. But if I say that to her, I am ungrateful. Ella drummed her fingers on the table, a little spark of mischief lighting up her eyes. Then maybe words are not enough anymore. I frowned. What do you mean? She thinks walking into your apartment uninvited is harmless, right? Ella said. Because in her mind, she is saving you. What if, just once, she walked in, and it cost her something instead of you? The idea hung in the air between us. Dangerous. Tempting. I am not trying to traumatize her, I said, even as part of me wanted exactly that. I just want her to stop. Then give her a reason to stop, Ella replied. You do not have to hurt her. You just have to make the consequences of her behavior land on her instead of you. We spent the next hour tossing ideas back and forth. Some were too harsh even for the angry part of me. Fake hospital calls, fake police reports. Others were too mild, the emotional equivalent of hiding the casseroles. Eventually, the shape of a plan began to form. She uses that key like she is the landlord, Ella said. Fine. Make it so the next time she uses it, she ends up in a situation she cannot control. Embarrassing, scary, something that makes her realize this is not her territory anymore. I thought about my building manager who had already warned me once about unauthorized visitors after one of my mom's earlier appearances. I remembered the security cameras in the hall, the new policy about trespassing. What if I talk to the building manager? I said slowly, and explain that there is someone who keeps letting themselves in without permission. I tell him I am handling it, but if she comes again, I want him to treat it seriously. Not like a cute mom thing. Ella's eyes widened. You want him to confront her? Not scream at her, I said. Just enforce the rules. Make it clear that from the building's perspective, she is not special. She is just someone breaking in. We layered more details on top. I would invite my mom over under the pretense of needing help, like I was finally caving and asking for support. She would show up, key in hand, smug in her victory, only to find the door already unlocked, the apartment set up in a way that looked chaotic enough to trigger her fear. The building manager, prepped ahead of time, would be ready in the hall with a warning about unauthorized entry. No more invisible consequences. This time, people would see. And what about you? Ella asked. Where will you be? I pictured it. Me, already inside, waiting, not like a helpless kid caught breaking curfew, but like someone who had carefully designed every beat of what was about to happen. I will be right there, I said, watching her walk into the mess she taught me to clean up my whole life. Ella studied me, then nodded slowly. You are sure you can handle the fallout? I thought about the threat to cut off money, the years of boundary pushing, the diary, the key. I thought about how she had looked at me when she said I would regret pushing her away. I am done living in fear of her tantrums, I said. If this makes her furious, fine. If it makes her finally see me as an adult, even better. Either way, I cannot keep playing by her rules. Ella leaned forward, her voice dropping. Then you need one more thing. What? She smirked. You need to decide what you are going to say when she realizes it was all on purpose. When she looks at you and finally understands that you did not just change the locks, you changed the entire game. I imagined that moment. Her face, the realization, the outrage, the fear. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered 16-year-old me holding that open diary, 26-year-old me staring at my rifled drawers, and the sympathy faded. I will tell her the truth, I said. That this was the only way left to make her feel what she has been making me feel for years. Ella exhaled. Then all that is left is to set the date. That night, back in my apartment, I stared at my phone for a long time before finally typing the message. Hey Mom, I know things have been tense. I hate fighting with you. Can you come by this weekend? I think I might really need your help. I hit send and watched the typing dots appear almost immediately. Of course, I will be there. You know you can always count on me. She had no idea that this time she was the one walking into a trap. If you were in my place, how far would you go to teach a parent like that a lesson they could never pretend to forget? Saturday came faster than I expected. I woke up before my alarm, my heart already racing like my body knew what was coming. Today was the day my mother was going to walk into my apartment and finally feel something other than comfortable entitlement. First step was the building manager. I knocked on his office door mid-morning, palms slightly sweaty. Hey, I said when he looked up. I need to talk to you about something kind of serious. I explained carefully that someone had kept coming into my unit without permission, using an old spare key. I did not call her Mom. I called her an unauthorized person with a key I did not give. I told him I had already changed the lock, but that I expected she might try again, and I wanted the building rules enforced. He frowned. That is not okay, he said. Family or not, nobody gets to bypass the tenant. If I see her, or if security sees her using a key or messing with the door, that is trespassing. I can warn her. If she keeps it up, we escalate. Good, I said. I am inviting her today so I can confront her. I just need you nearby. I will text you when she is on her way up. He nodded slowly. You sure you want to do this? I thought about it. She acted like my home was hers, I said. It is time she sees how it feels when other people see her as someone who does not belong. Back upstairs, the second step was the apartment itself. I did not destroy anything. I did not want real damage. What I wanted was a scene that would slice straight through her fantasy that everything was fine as long as she could rearrange it. I pulled out my suitcase and left it open on the bed, half packed with clothes. I stacked some boxes by the door, labeled with black marker, kitchen, books, bathroom. On the coffee table, I laid out a printed copy of a fake lease cancellation email I had mocked up the night before. The subject line bold and clear. Notice of move out. I scattered a few unpaid bill envelopes around it, all real, all with my name stamped on top. On the counter, I left a half-written note. I cannot live like this anymore. I need space, even if it means leaving everything behind. I stopped there, letting the sentence hang open, enough to send her mind into a spiral. Ella arrived just after noon, eyes widening as she took in the staged chaos. "This is intense," she said softly. "You okay?" "No," I admitted. "But I am done being okay with her behavior. That is the point." She nodded, then pointed to the hallway. "You text the manager when she gets here. I will stay in the bedroom, out of sight, unless you need backup." At 2:15, my phone buzzed. "On my way. Traffic is awful. See you soon." I typed a quick message to the manager. "She is coming up now. Dark blue coat, short hair, late 50s. She has a key." Then I left my own door unlocked, just enough to be ironic. Minutes later, I heard the elevator ding down the hall, then the distinct sound of her heels on the carpet. Ella slipped quietly into the bedroom, leaving the door cracked just enough to hear. I stood in the living room, my back to the door, pretending to sort through the fake move-out papers. Out in the hall, her footsteps slowed. I could picture her pulling the key from her bag out of habit. There was a pause. Then the soft clink of metal against metal as she tried the lock that no longer matched her key. "What on earth?" she muttered. I heard another voice then, firm and unfamiliar to her. The building manager. "Ma'am, can I help you?" "Oh," she said, caught off guard. "No, I am fine. I am just letting myself into my daughter's place." "There are no authorized additional key holders listed for this unit," he replied. "Tenants are required to be present when guests enter. It is building policy." Her tone sharpened. "I am not some random guest. I am her mother. I have always had a key." "Not anymore," he said. "The tenant changed the locks. If you attempt to enter without her permission, it is considered trespassing. I am going to ask you to step back from the door until she lets you in." I could practically feel the shock radiating through the wood. For once, someone other than me was telling her no. Someone she could not guilt with, after everything I have done for you. A beat of silence. Then, with stiff politeness, she knocked. "Debbie," she called, voice tight. "It is me. Open the door." I stepped forward and turned the handle, letting the door swing wide. She stood there, cheeks flushed, eyes darting between me and the manager behind her. "Is everything all right here?" he asked me directly. "Yes," I said, meeting his eyes. "She is here because I invited her." "Now," he nodded once. "Any issues? Let me know." Then he walked away, leaving my mother standing at the threshold of a home that no longer automatically welcomed her. She stepped inside slowly, taking in the open suitcase, the boxes, the scattered bills, the printed email. Her face went pale. "What is all this?" she demanded. "Are you moving out? Without telling me?" I watched her fingers tremble as she grabbed the fake lease email and scanned it. Her breathing quickened. "Notice of move out," she read aloud. "Why would you not talk to me first? After everything I have done for you, you just leave? You know you cannot afford to move somewhere else right now. What are you thinking?" I folded my arms. "I am thinking about what it takes for me to have a life you no longer control." She looked up, eyes wide and hurt and furious all at once. "So you are punishing me. That is what this is. For years, you walked into my room, my diary, my apartment like you owned it," I said, my voice steady. "Every time I begged you to stop, you told me I was overreacting. You laughed. You acted like it was cute. Today, you finally felt what it is like to be treated like a person who does not belong." Her gaze flicked toward the hallway where the manager had been. "You talked to him about me?" she hissed. "You made me look like some criminal." "No," I replied. "You made yourself look like someone who does not respect boundaries. I just stopped covering for you." Her hands shook so hard the paper crinkled. "This is sick, Debbie. You set me up. You made your own mother look bad in front of strangers. What kind of daughter does that?" I felt Ella's presence like a silent anchor behind the bedroom door. I took a breath. "The kind of daughter who is done being treated like a child," I said. "The kind who has tried every gentle conversation, every calm explanation, and watched you ignore all of them. The kind who finally learned your language. Consequences." She stared at me, the realization slowly dawning. Her eyes moved from the suitcase to the note on the counter, to the open boxes, to the changed lock. Her face shifted from anger to something closer to horror. "You were never actually moving," she whispered. "This is all staged." I nodded. "But the part where the building no longer sees you as special? That is real. The part where your key does not work anymore? That is real too." She swallowed hard, eyes shining. "You humiliated me. You made me feel shut out, like I was nothing." I held her gaze. "Exactly," I said quietly. "Now you know what you have been making me feel for years." We stood there in the thick silence, the wreckage of our roles scattered around us like the fake boxes on the floor. Then she did something I had never seen before. She turned away from me, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door with rigid steps. "If this is how you want things to be," she said, not facing me, "then fine. You have your precious privacy. You will not have to worry about me breaking into your life anymore, because I am done trying." She yanked the door open and slammed it behind her so hard the frame rattled. For a moment, I just stood there, heart pounding, ears ringing. Ella came out of the bedroom slowly, eyes wide. "That was brutal," she said, "but she needed to hear it." I nodded, though my throat ached. "For once," I whispered. "So did I." Somewhere down the hall, I heard the elevator doors open and close. My mother was gone. And for the first time, it felt like she could not just walk back in whenever she wanted. The revenge had landed. Now I had to live with what it changed. In the days after the confrontation, the silence that followed was different from the one before. Before, it had been loaded with threats and manipulation, with unspoken promises that she would show up anyway. Now, it was heavy in another way. Final. She did not text. She did not call. No surprise footsteps in the hallway. No casseroles cooling on my counter. My door stayed exactly the way I left it every morning. Closed. Grace was the first to break. A week later, my phone lit up with her name. "Hey," she said quietly when I picked up. "Mom told me what happened. Or at least her version." "Let me guess," I said. "I am a heartless monster who embarrassed her in front of the entire building." Grace sighed. "She said you set her up. That you made her look like some intruder. She left out the part where she has been letting herself in for months." I leaned against the counter. "Do you think I went too far?" There was a pause. "I think you finally did something that made her feel how intense this is for you," Grace said. "She is hurt, but she is also not denying what she did anymore. That is new." "How is she?" I asked, despite myself. "Angry," Grace admitted, "and embarrassed. Apparently, the building manager told her that if she tried to use a key again, without you there, they could involve security. She keeps saying she never thought anyone would treat her like that. That she is not some criminal." A twisted part of me felt satisfaction. Another part felt a small, unwelcome pang. "She is also freaking out because people at her book club heard her ranting about it," Grace added. "One of them told her she should maybe talk to someone about boundaries, like a therapist. She did not like that." I almost laughed. The idea of my mother sitting in a therapist's office, trying to justify reading her daughter's diary and breaking into apartments as love, was surreal. "Has she actually gone?" I asked. "Believe it or not," Grace said. "Yes. She has had 2 sessions. She came home pissed the first time and quiet the second. She will not tell me what they talked about, but she keeps muttering about how nobody understands what it is like to be left behind by your own kids." The words hit me in the chest. Being left behind. "I did not do this to abandon her," I said slowly. "I did it to survive her." "I know," Grace replied, "but she is finally starting to realize that if she keeps acting like this, surviving her is all we are going to be able to do. Not love her." Weeks rolled into a month. The anger in my chest cooled into something more complicated. I liked the quiet. I liked knowing my door was mine. But sometimes, late at night, I thought about her in that big house alone, staring at the same door she had once walked through to read my diary, now waiting for a knock that did not come. Then, one Sunday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "It is me." I got a new phone. I know I am the last person you want to hear from, but I would like to talk. In person. Your choice. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back. Neutral place. The park by your old church. Tomorrow at 4. She was already sitting on a bench when I arrived the next day, hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee even though it was warm out. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in presence. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between us that felt more symbolic than physical. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I nodded, saying nothing. For a moment, we just watched people pass. Parents pushing strollers, teenagers laughing too loud, a little girl tugging her mother toward the swings. I talked to my therapist about you, she said finally. Well, about us. I raised an eyebrow. You actually went more than twice? She managed a weak smile. Apparently, I am consistent when I am mad enough. Her smile faded. She asked me a question I did not know how to answer. She asked when I stopped seeing you as a person with your own life and started seeing you as something I needed to manage. Silence again. A bird hopped near our feet, then darted away. I told her I was just doing what mothers do, she continued. Checking on you, making sure you were safe, bringing food, using the key, reading the diary. She winced at her own words. She asked if I ever asked you what you needed instead of deciding for you. And? I asked. She laughed bitterly. I did not like her very much in that moment, but she was right. I have been acting like the only way I know how to love is to control. And when you pushed back, I panicked. I doubled down. I used money, guilt. Your sister. You humiliated me, I said quietly. For years. Made me feel like my no did not matter. Like my door was just a suggestion. She nodded, eyes filling with something raw. And then you humiliated me back, she said. The building, the key, the fake move. I have never felt so shut out. It was like I was on the outside of your life looking in, and there was nothing I could do. I hated it. That is how I have felt every time you walked into my space without asking, I replied. Outside of my own life, watching you rearrange it. We sat with that, the mirror finally visible between us. I am not going to lie and say I am grateful for what you did, she said. I am still angry. I still think you went too far. But I also understand now that you meant it. That you were not just being dramatic. That I really was crossing lines. I took a breath. I did not do it to be cruel, I said. I did it because talking did not work. Boundaries only exist if there are consequences when they are crossed. I needed you to finally hit a wall you could not push through. Tears slid down her cheeks, and for once she did not hide them behind outrage. So what now? She whispered. Do I stay on the outside forever? Is that my punishment? I looked at her, really looked at her, not just as the villain of my story, but as a flawed human who had been taught that control and care were the same thing. I do not want you gone, I said slowly, but I do want you different. She wiped her face, waiting. No more keys, I said. Ever. No surprise visits. If you want to see me, you call. You ask. If I say no, you accept it. No guilt. No invoices about the past. No threats about money. You treat my no like a full sentence, not an opening argument. And if I mess up? She asked, voice barely audible. Then you do not see me, I said. Because I would rather have no mother in my apartment than have one who thinks she owns it. She flinched, but she did not argue. And I will hold up my side too, I added. I will call. I will visit when I can. I will not disappear to punish you. But I will walk away if you make my life smaller when you are in it. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she nodded. Once, like someone accepting a sentence they knew they had earned. Okay, she whispered. I do not know if I can change overnight. I have spent my whole life thinking this was love, but I will try. I do not want to lose you completely. I believed her. Not completely, not blindly, but enough. Enough to give her a chance. Months later, the evidence of that promise began to show up in small, almost invisible ways. She called before she drove into the city. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. When I said no, she did not show up anyway. She sent texts instead of surprise casseroles. She asked, grudgingly at first, if I wanted advice before giving it. She stopped using my sister as a messenger or a shield. The building never saw her try to use a key again. Our relationship did not turn into some perfect hallmark reconciliation. There were still arguments, old habits flaring up, moments where her voice sharpened and mine did too. But there was also a new understanding, carved out of the pain we had put each other through. She had paid a price. She had been embarrassed, confronted, forced to see herself as the intruder she had always insisted she was not. She had lost the comfort of walking into my life unchecked. She had lost the role of the all-knowing mother who could always say, "I am your parent, I know best," and expect it to end the conversation. I had paid a price too. I had to live with the fact that my revenge had hurt her, that I had chosen a theatrical lesson over another desperate conversation. I had to accept that even justified payback leaves scars on both sides. But when I walked into my apartment at the end of a long day now, the only key turning in the lock was mine. The only footsteps in the hall were ones I had invited. The only voice inside was the one I chose to let in. And that, to me, was worth it. After everything that happened, I still do not know if you would have done what I did. Maybe you think I went too far. Maybe you think I did not go far enough. So I am curious. If someone you loved kept breaking into your life and ignoring every boundary you set, would you forgive them once they finally paid the price? Or would you keep the door closed for good?